Hey guys, so it's election season and it looks like Hillary Clinton will be the Democratic nominee. I know, anything's possible. Bernie Sanders is looking great at the moment, but by all measures, it's most likely that Hillary will be the nominee. And it's never too early to start talking about vice presidential options. And so I'm jumping in right now with my bold prediction. I think the vice presidential choice for Hillary will be one of the Castro brothers. Either Julian, the former mayor of San Antonio, or Joaquin, the current member of the House of Representatives. And I have for you 5 reasons why I think one of them will be her selection for vice president. Okay, number 1, Jeb Bush and or Marco Rubio could either be a presidential or vice presidential pick for the Republicans. Both are Spanish speaking. Both appeal to the Hispanic base of the Republican Party. For those of you who may doubt that Jeb Bush has that sort of appeal, it's not just because he speaks Spanish, it's because his brother George Bush also did historically well with Hispanics. In fact, George Bush did better with Hispanics than both John McCain in 2008 and Mitt Romney in 2012. So, by choosing one of the Castro brothers, Hillary could give herself an advantage, or at least bring herself back up to par with a Republican that either was Hispanic or spoke Spanish and gave that sort of appeal. Number 2, Hispanic voters are exhausted waiting for immigration reform. Yes, Obama's executive action was nice. The problem is that both in 2008 and 2012, and then really again in the midterms in 2014, Obama promised immigration reform is coming. Even Republicans in some cases made this promise. And the problem is that Republican obstruction has basically made immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform, next to impossible. Now, we can lay the blame here and there. I obviously just laid the blame on the Republicans, but the issue for any Democrat or any politician going forward is that Hispanics are going to be skeptical. They're not just going to take what a Democrat says at face value anymore. And so it's going to take someone, maybe Hispanic, on the ticket as Hillary's vice president to tip the scales, to maybe bring a voice of authority and to give the perception that the politicians are actually serious this time about immigration reform. Number 3, Hillary needs energy. It's not enough that there's a big chunk of women that are going to vote for her regardless because it's history. That's not enough this time. People in general, the electorate in the United States is sick. They're tired of the idea of a political dynasty. They don't want a third Bush term. They don't want a third Clinton term. They don't like the idea of these political dynasties, these families, these establishment candidates that always seem to get up to the top, that always rise. It's always another Bush, always another Clinton, or some variation thereupon. Anyway, how can Hillary distinguish herself? How can she bring energy? How can she tap into those Obama voters from 2008 and 2012, those young people, those Hispanic voters? Well, the answer is you bring in fresh blood. So you bring in Julian, you bring in Joaquin Castro, young-looking Hispanic guys that are going to bring in new voters, fresh voters. They're going to bring a new face, and they're going to bring, more importantly, energy to Hillary Clinton's ticket. I guess in short, number 3 is bring in some fresh blood to distract voters from the fact that it's a Clinton. Okay, number 4, a milquetoast, boring Midwestern governor, senator type. That's not going to cut it this time as a vice presidential pick. Okay, so Hillary could play it safe. Martin O'Malley, Deval Patrick, Tim Kaine. These are options. The demographics, the electoral map looks pretty good for Democrats regardless. But that's a bit boring. And honestly, like I said earlier, she needs that energy, which the Castro brothers could bring. She could go purely for energy. She could go the opposite way, right? She could go for the fiery liberal, the Elizabeth Warren, the Bernie Sanders, assuming he loses. But the thing is about bringing in a fiery liberal is that you potentially alienate voters. So that's a risk. So you don't want to take a risk without reward. So the counterbalance, the middle ground, is maybe Cory Booker, but also maybe one of the Castro brothers. And I just want to put this out. It's not just about making some sort of a political statement. It's not about just having some sort of a power play. Here, an energetic candidate, here you go. It's about making an investment in the future of the Democratic Party, saying we want to fight for these new Hispanic voters, which brings me to number 5. Number 5 is that Hispanics are going to be key to turning Texas into a blue state at some point. Joaquin, Julian are from Texas. Now, I don't believe that anything can turn Texas blue in 2016. I would go as far to say that nothing will turn Texas blue even as far as 2020. But an investment now in the future saying we're here to play, the Democratic Party is here to play in Texas, is an investment in the future. Because once Texas turns blue, that's kind of it for Republicans on the national level, at least as far as the White House is concerned. I've seen a couple articles and studies that could be biased that said that if Hispanics voted at the same rate as white people, specifically as old white people, in Texas, it would already be a blue state. And so bringing in a Castro brother is also a way of generating new voter registration, bringing in that energy. Basically, reasons 1 through 4 that I've listed already feed into section 5, feed into reason 5. So that's my bold prediction. I could be wrong, but I usually have a decent instinct for these sorts of things. And I think that our most likely 2 vice presidential picks are going to be Rubio for the Republicans and one of the Castro brothers for the Democrats. So basically, overall, I think we're going to have a Hispanic name somewhere on the ballot in 2016, be it for the Republicans or for the Democrats.